Ever since entering the new world, there's been a recurring pattern where the certain female character initially seem like enemies, but ultimately end up siding with Luffy. In the case of Elbaf, this pattern might apply to Gunko-chan. Everyone loves the adorable Gunko-chan. But even she has something she's afraid of, Nika. This reminds me of conversation between Loki and Mosako. Mosako once had a terrifying experience that still makes them tremble. With that connection in mind, in this video, I'll be analyzing Gunko and Mosako from the perspective of someone who read the Japanese version, the original version of One Piece. By the way, the volume 111 is finally released in the other day. And once again, there was a question from France in the SBS section, which shows that Oda-sensei contributing to future questions from around the world now. So I've come up with the idea. I'll submit your question for the SBS section on your behalf. I'd love for as many of you as possible to participate. I'll explain all the details in my next Dawn Dusk video. This is my another channel. So you can prepare the questions for SBS section and stay tuned. First and foremost, the most striking feature about her is that her mouth is always hidden behind bandages. This design seems to be inspired by a character from the Japanese children's books character, Anpanman. However heard, Oda-sensei's justice is Anpanman daisuki, which means I love Anpanman. It's not Wanpanman, it's Anpanman. And this character is called Rollpanna-chan. She also has bandages wrapped around her face. But what is her most defining trait? She has two hearts, one good and one evil. When she is high in good states, her red heart glows, and when she is in the evil state, her blue heart shines. If you think about Gunko-chan's eyes have different designs, it's possible that her character was influenced by Rollpanna-chan, and Gunko-chan. And I personally believe that this idea of having both good and evil within her applies to Gunko-chan as well. Why? Because her mysterious eyes suggest that something or someone had a deep influence on her. In the previous video, I proposed a theory that Gunko-chan used to work at Impel Down, but this time I have a completely different theory to share. What if Gunko was originally a member of Revolutionary Army, going by the name Mosako? One reason is that, aside from Dragon, Ivankov, and Karasu, nearly all of the Revolutionary Army commanders wear goggles just like Gunko. But that's not all. Here's how I think her story unfolds. Mosako, as a revolutionary, loses a battle and is captured by the God's Knights or world government officials, and she is then taken directly to Imu and completely mind-controlled, leading to the creation of Gunko we see today. Right now, we see her using the arrow ability to control children, but ironically, she herself might be under Imu's control through the same arrow-based ability. And there are several hints that suggest Gunko is connected to Imu. First, let's talk about her unusual eyes, like odd eyes. Why are Gunko's eyes different from each other? I believe it's because she shares her senses and vision with Imu. Her left eye by chance looks eerily similar to the eyes that appears when the five elders transformed into yokai. This could mean that her bizarre eye is a result of her sensory link with Imu. There's also proof that Imu can perceive things at great distances. Even though Imu is in Marijoa, far from Egghead, they were still able to sense Emeth's haki, actually Joy Boy's haki. This might be because Imu shares their senses with the five elders. And Gunko? She might have a similar ability with five elders and Imu. She could be able to communicate with Imu instantly without a dendenmushi. One strange detail in chapter 1140 supports this theory. First of all, Shamrock was the one who ordered Gunko to summon one more God's Knight. Yet when the God's Knights appeared, two of them arrived instead of one. Shamrock, confused, asked why the two ghost knights were summoned. To this, Killingam responded, "Because you are leaving, Captain. Orders from above." But hold on, wasn't Shamrock the one who originally gave the order? Why did it suddenly shift to orders from above? The most likely answer is Imu. If Imu was watching everything through Gunko's special eyes, they would have seen the conversation between Gunko and Shamrock in Elbaf. That means Imu could have immediately issued new orders to Somers and Killingam. There's even more proof of Gunko's link to Imu. Even though she has the aro fruit in Japanese, aro no mi, she can also summon something completely unrelated, the Abyss. Killingam even checked where the location of Abyss. If all God's Knights had the ability to use Abyss, that question wouldn't even be necessary. Right now, the only ones we've seen summoning the Abyss are Gunko and the Five Elders. This suggests that Gunko shares her vision, senses, and even devil fruit abilities with Imu. Thinking about it this way, Gunko's line in chapter 1142 makes perfect sense. When Somers asked her, "What are you afraid of?" Gunko-chan simply replied, "Nika." This likely means that through Im's mind control, Gunko has absorbed Im's thought, memories, and even fears. After all, we've already seen Imu visibly shaken when they sensed Joy Boy's haki. This suggests that Joy Boy, after transforming into Nika, was a terrifying experience for Imu. And since Gunko is under Imu's control, that fear has been transferred to her as well. Now, let's talk about why I think Gunko is actually Mosako. Mind control is a common trope in manga. Typically, a controlled character has no memory of what happened while they are under mind control. Gunko seems to be the same way. Most of the time, she's completely under Imu's control, but there are moments when that control weakens. For example, when Imu is asleep or to focus on Lily. During this moment, I think Gunko is locked up in a cell in Marijoa. Loki was nailed to the Adam tree, so of course he had nothing but time on his hands. But what about Gunko? If Im's mind control had worn off, then she was probably locked away in the cell, just like Loki, also with nothing to do. Here's why. At the end of the Egghead arc, Imu went into a frenzy after being hit by the Joy Boy's haki. This causes the Five Elders transformation to break, and as a result, they are automatically teleported back to Marijoa. If that's the case, it makes sense that Gunko's mind control broke at the same time, which would explain why she was thrown into the prison cell. Now, let's talk about the terrifying experience Loki asked Mosako about. This could refer to Gunko's past as Revolutionary Army member, when she was brutally taken by the God's Knights and taken to Marijoa, following my theory. And interestingly, Loki mentioned that she had never seen and met Mosako before. That means he recognized Shamrock as looking like Shanks, but he didn't notice anything familiar about Gunko. One possible weakness in this theory is the voice issue. But if you think about it, LunaPiena from Anpanman had a completely different voice in her good and evil modes. So it's entirely possible that Gunko's voice changes completely while under Im's mind control. And finally, there's a moment Mosako tells Loki, "I noticed even you have a kindness in you." Loki then loses his temper and starting yelling. And what does Mosako say next? "大きな声はやめてください. Please lower your voice." This might be because she was no longer under mind control at the moment and was being held in the cell. If the world government or other God's Knights members found out she was talking to Loki, a directly enemy, it would be a serious problem. Now, here's the biggest question. How did Loki and Mosako aka Gunko-chan actually know each other? I believe an event from 14 years ago holds the key. Here's why. It's said that Harald was killed by Loki during the battle at Or's castle. But I think the Gods Knights were also involved in this fight, in this battle. In this scene, we have one big clue. The scar left behind the Or's castle. Most people assume those marks were caused by Loki's abilities, but I want to propose a different possibility. Shamrock. We learned in the chapter 1138 that Shamrock has the ability to completely erase his presence. This ability was also introduced in the volume 4 Billion as a type of haki known as Observation Killer, which Shanks also possesses. If Shamrock and other Gods Knights secretly participated in the battle without Loki noticing, then those scars could have been made by his Cerberus-powered saber. Shamrock and Howard were likely working together to bring Elbaf under the control of the world government. But standing in their way is Loki and Yarrow. However, since Loki ended up killing Harald, that plan fell apart, severing their ties with Elbaf now. And here's where things get interesting. During the battle, the Gods Knights must have left behind the Dendemushi in the castle. And at some point, Loki found it. And when he called the number, the one who answered was none other than Gunko. But at the time, she was in her Mosako persona, free from mind control. That's probably how they became friends. And if that's the case, it makes perfect sense why Loki considers Mosako a friend, even though he doesn't know her face, or their face. By the way, 40 years ago wasn't just when the old castle incident happened. It was also the year Ginny was taken to marry Joa. That raises an interesting possibility. What if Gunko was taken along with her? We don't have a clear image who was taken, but it's possible that the silhouette figure we saw was actually Gunko. We don't know her exact age, but if she's sharing power with Imu, then, like the five elders, she might have stopped aging entirely. That would mean she still looks the same as she did back then. And right now, Kuma should be somewhere in Elbaf, and if Gunko sees him, it could trigger her lost memories, potentially breaking her mind control. Because in the One Piece world, the soul is the most important thing. In the chapter 1134, after Mosako finished talking with Loki, she was likely placed back under Im's mind control and sent to Elbaf as Gunko, leading to the current situation. Now, I'll be honest, this is a low possibilities theory, but I wanted to present a new perspective while keeping everything as logical and consistent as possible. And trust me, I have plenty more theories like this in my head, so if you have any requests and questions, let me know. Also, I host members-only livestream and provide chapter translation on my page every week. Some content is available for free, feel free to check it out. And if you're interested in Japanese translation and marketing-related work, you can contact me via the details in the description. Alright, that's it for today. See you in the next video.